Hi, I'm Dr. Alessandra Polizzi. I'm the CEO of Verdant Consulting, and I am midway through a walkthrough of the WHO's 12 psychosocial hazards or mental health hazards that can impact your ability to do your best work. So, leadership. Being responsible for people has been identified as one of the biggest hazards to our mental health. Pause for impact. When I share this to people in leadership positions, they go, oh my God, it does. It does. And when we look at the data, Gallup, for example, showing that 70% of managers are rated poorly, and that's been consistent over the last several decades since they've been measuring it. That means that only 30% of leaders are getting it right. And yet the biggest investment we make in development, leadership development, right? We spend a lot of time, a lot of money on developing leaders. Or worse, we don't. We see a lot of people promoted into leadership positions because they happen to be good at doing the individual tasks on their team. Very different skill set from leading other people. And we have this high expectation that as soon as you become a leader, all of your needs, all of your emotions, everything about you disappears. Bye-bye. You just need to focus on the people above you, the people next to you, and most importantly, the people who report to you. And none of that is untrue. However, we can't do any of that if we haven't taken care of ourselves. And this is not something that is taught in leadership development classes. How do I know this? I've spent 20 plus years as a leadership development expert, as a talent development expert. I've worked for a plethora of large brands, small brands, companies all over the world. We never talk about the hazards that can come up when we're responsible for leading other people. Rather, we look at tactics, and my favorite gaslight is time management. Why do I call that a gaslight? Well, we over-index on how much leaders can do. We make them player coaches. We don't give them enough time to do the work. We emphasize heroics. We say do more with less. And then, of course, we cram everybody into time management because what we're expecting is impossible. Okay, let's continue our conversation about leadership as a hazard to your mental health. I know this is a radical notion, but think about the things we're asking of leaders now. We want people to be able to manage their teams and also be vulnerable, be empathetic, navigate very difficult situations, continue to do more with less, also navigate maybe their own financial challenges. And what we find in the data is that this does not get better as you get promoted. This isn't like, okay, well, first time supervisor or lead, I can muscle through because it's only going to get better as I get promoted because I'll have more power. Actually, what you have is more pressure. And so again, research shows that the higher up you go in the organization, the bigger your threat to your mental health, with some studies showing that almost 80% of the people who sit in those C-suite and VP positions suffer from mental health issues. So the WHO actually calls out leader development as one of the key actions that you can take in this organization to address workplace mental health. In fact, they correlate it the highest to outcomes, more than any other factor, more than any other action you can take. And let's just think about why that might be. Our leaders, especially middle managers, have huge impact on our business, both in performance, in managing customers, in quality, but also in retaining our talent, especially top talent. And what do we do to equip them to do that? We yell at them about being more thoughtful and caring about the well-being of their team while ignoring their own well-being. In fact, if you Google leader and well-being, you'll see a bunch about what leaders need to do for their teams, and they should, but very little, if any, on well-being for me so that I can do that. So one of the things I try to teach is something called self-coaching instead of self-criticism. We also want to equip leaders with the ability to understand what are my biases, and I don't just mean unconscious bias we learn in our DEI classes, which obviously are important, but there are over 200 cognitive distortions or biases in how we see the world and how we see ourselves. One of them, as I mentioned earlier, is imposter syndrome. Another one for our high achievers is perfectionism. Hello. And the expectation we will make zero mistakes. So leadership is a big one to focus on if you're going to try to tackle workplace mental health.